Welcome to the Economic Outlook for Main Street, office, retail, and residential. How is my voice coming across? Excellent. It's good to be here, and it's an exciting program this year. I don't know about you, but I was listening pretty attentively to the back and forth and give and take this morning between the various assorted mayors and supervisors and councilmen, who I think maybe perhaps more than in past years has brought out some of the inherent conflicts and contradictions that are being worked through as Long Island moves towards a healthier and more diversified economic base, of which the infrastructure is in part what we're going to be talking about now. In terms of the economic economic outlook, obviously none of us have a crystal ball, but I think that I've asked all of the panelists to kind of look through their own work in their own space to be able to give us a sense of what they're doing and the market as they see it and as they're experiencing it. And I think that they're going to, between them, they're going to give us a pretty good perspective on what outlook we can expect, possibly, for next year and moving forward. In some cases, moving through some of the things and some of the challenges that were brought up this morning. In terms of housework, I'm going to call on each of and introduce each of them in turn. You may have questions at the end of their brief presentations. You're welcome to raise questions at that point, or when all is finished, we'll have a kind of Adult Swim, and we can all throw in any questions we want and maybe start a conversation about any or all of these topics. So that'll be up to you. What I see as the key differentiator between today and moving forward, and perhaps where we have been, can be summed up in three words: live, work, play. And this is a tripod of concepts that largely, if not completely, has been absent in Long Island, but has very much characterized economic development and economic growth in downtowns and regions across the country. We have had effectively no work site development, whether it's office space, whether it's back office space, headquarters, light assembly. It's been almost completely missing from the residential and downtown markets. In contrast to many other areas of the country where work sites and the possibility of employment centers are what help to bring prosperity and help people to have the finances and the resources to buy the homes or to rent the quality homes that make up the mixed use, higher density, new urban, smart growth communities. Any of these names apply. I think that there have been a few signs that perhaps the work, live, play, or live, work, play is catching on. Was Nassau County Executive's recent announcement that Northwell is going to be an anchor tenant in the Nassau Hub and the Coliseum, which I've overheard somebody talking about the implosion, the Coliseum implosion, and it's been obviously ongoing, and it has not moved forward perhaps quite as quickly as many would like to see. But I think that it's a very positive sign to see an employment center being part of a mixed-use smart growth project. Up until now, and I think we'll be hearing from our panelists on it, is that the office space, which is as close as we've come to that, has been incredibly antiquated in terms of its downtown presence. The newer downtowns have very little in the way of office space. It's primarily associated with the older downtowns, where it's often been left out of any renovations or improvements over the years. It's old, it's tired, in some cases it's decrepit, and what that means is that people don't necessarily want to work there. So it becomes difficult for employers to attract the kind of workforce they need in some of this old and antiquated sites. They are being knocked down in many cases and being replaced by housing. I don't know that that's a good thing. I'm interested to hear what others think. I think that the presence of small businesses, many cases family-owned, with with deep roots in the community, is actually a very positive aspect to vitalizing or revitalizing downtowns. In contrast to medical office space, which has become the go-to commercial, driving a lot of the new development, the new tenants, new occupancies. We see that the downtown office, as opposed to downtown retailers, provide a kind of a stability. These are the people who consistently will have lunch in downtown. They consistently will look for the great good place after work and stay in downtown in those hours before maybe the dinner crowd comes in or the entertainment seeking crowd comes in. And this has been very much emerging on Long Island, and I'm curious to see if any of our panelists feel the same way.
Take a look at the environment right now.
I'd like to introduce our the first of our panelists, Stephen Krieger. And Stephen comes from the Anglo Berman Group, which owns, develops, and manages prime properties up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and continues to expand throughout the country.
That we have in government.
Our first Stephen is our first speaker, and he's one of Anglo Berman's founding partners. He spearheaded well over $1 billion worth of acquisitions and financing, including the first attainment of IDA money for an assisted living center in New York. He secured the entitlements for over 2,500 housing units in the tri-state area, as well as retailers like Lifetime Fitness and Stop and Shop. He's a board member of Long Island Builders Institute, the Long Island Housing Partnership, and, most importantly, of Vision Long Island. What's not as well known about Steve is that he studied abroad at the London School of Economics, where he was a member of the traveling basketball team. Okay. Did anybody know that? Or am I, is that new? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Krieger.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I guess I'll just start off real quickly to talk about what Anglo Berman does real quickly, okay? This company was founded by myself, Jan Berman, and Sidney Engel in 1998, where we bought a piece of property in Uniondale. And if you're familiar with Borelli's Pizza on the corner of Hempstead Turnpike, we went to contract on 11 acres there, and we ended up building a 300-bed nursing home. We ended up building our first Bristol assisted living community, and we ended up building a 100-unit rental, which turned into a for-sale 55 and older community. And for those of you who don't know, we really went into the senior housing business by default, okay? Because every time we went to a municipality and said we want to build some housing, the first question the municipality asked us was, how many school-age kids are you going to bring to the schools? As a result of that, we said, okay, what do you want to see here? And they always said, we want to see 55 and older housing. So the second Bristol we built was actually in downtown, okay? It was in the downtown, and we were really pioneers at that time in 2001, and we built a Bristol on Post Avenue, right at the train tracks in Westbury. I wish I still had that property today, because I don't think the Bristol was the highest and best use for that property, right? Probably the highest and best use for that property today would be multifamily rental housing, rather than a senior community for people that are 80, 85 and older, right? Because when we went into this business in 2000, 1998, we opened our first building in 2000. The average age of a resident in Bristol was 82 years old. Today, the average age of a resident in Bristol is 87 years old. Okay? So, when you think about that, right, we have this beautiful building, downtown Westbury, right on the corner of Post. You can, half the people that go to the train park in our back parking lot anyway. We just, they just park back there. But we're not a great boon to that, we're not a great bonus to that downtown area, right? Because most of our residents, when you say live, work, and play, our residents aren't working. All our residents live in the building, and all the residents, they play in our building, right? Because we have a cinema, we have a salon, we have a arts and crafts, we have bankers that come right into the building. We are visiting doctors that come into the building. So we are a big boon to the economy because we have doctors coming into the building every day. We have family members coming and visiting those residents every day. Unfortunately, a lot of those family members don't come as often as we would like to see them, but we do have people coming and visiting the building. So we're not really doing any additional downtown. The last downtown development we did was in West Babylon by the movie theater. We built a Bristol in West Babylon on Montauk Highway. It's about 175 unit development. And again, we're not, the people that come and visit the building, they're a boon, they're a benefit, they're a bonus to the shops. There's an economic multiplier effect. We probably hire 100 people in each one of those buildings, so there's definitely an economic multiplier effect, but we're not bringing in what I would say is the young millennials who are going to help build our community and take on those high-tech jobs and those better jobs that are available. And as we all know, this is a cycle, right? If we have the housing, we'll get the jobs. If we have the jobs, we'll get the housing. But we are doing something really interesting. We're building, I would say about 3 years ago, we answered an RFP with Nassau University Medical Center for some acreage at Holly Patterson. Are you familiar with Jerusalem Avenue, Holly Patterson? There's a big site there. It's about 60 acres. So we answered an RFP, and we won the RFP, and we're doing 2 developments on that site. And this site happens to be a mile from the hub, from the Nassau County hub, okay? So we got approved, and we actually got our site plan approval from the town of Hempstead on Tuesday. And the town of Hempstead has been wonderful, proactive for development. They're a great town to do business in. We actually got our approval on Tuesday for 180 units of non-age restricted housing where we're going to cater towards millennials, okay? And what does that actually mean? We're going to try a new concept, which we all learned, we learned from our kids having lived in college dormitories. We're setting up each one of those apartments with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a common area. The bathrooms will be located in each one of the suites, so they're like studio apartments with a common living room and a common kitchen. And we're exploring the possibility right now of actually signing individual leases. So 2 friends would come to us and say, hey, we want to rent this apartment together. We're exploring the possibility right now of saying, okay, 2 friends are going to rent the apartment, but you're each going to be responsible for your own half. It becomes a much more affordable option for millennials because it gives someone the opportunity with a friend to come in and say, hey, you know what? Instead of being responsible for $2,500 of rent for a nice 2-bedroom apartment, I'm only going to be responsible for $1,250 a month in rent. And if that roommate moves out, that person who stays there is not going to be responsible to bring in another roommate. That's going to be the landlord on the landlord to bring in another roommate. So it's a new concept, we're exploring it. I think it's very exciting, and it gives millennials, the opportunity, someone who's making $40,000 now can afford to move out of their mom's basement, to move out of an apartment, to move out of an apartment in someone's house, in their own family's house, and be on their own. So that's something interesting that we're exploring right now. We're also building right now a substance use disorder facility right now in Riverhead. Very interesting. And the reason I bring that up is because the economic multiplier effect of that facility, it's a 134,000 square foot building. That's going to be an economic boon to the downtown of Riverhead. It's going to be a boon to Riverhead because we have a research center. It's going to be a world-renowned research center. We're partners with Northwell Health. They're an equity partner with us. And we're going to be doing research on evidence-based research to see, substance use disorder is a disease today. It's not a moral failing. It's not a personality failing. It's a disease. So we're going to be doing research. And as a result of doing that research, we're going to have doctors from all over the world and all over the country. We've set up auditoriums in our building, so it will be an economic boon to the downtown Riverhead. So those are some of the things that we're doing, okay? Thank you.
One of the things that, well, actually, John, I think...
Did anybody have any particular questions for now?
That's okay. You want to tune it up?
It's Calverton, it's on River Road. Could you repeat the question? Sure. She wanted to know where in Riverhead. It actually backs up to the runway. It's on River Road and Jan Way in Riverhead, part of the Upcal property that my partner Jan Berman bought in 1999 from the town of Riverhead. It's on 40 acres.
It doesn't really make you want to go and shop more of that.
I had a question. What position did you play on the basketball team?
A business is moving into such a space.
Okay, is there another question?
Offer them a discount on their first year's worth of electric costs. So this is just an example of one customer who was one of the early participants in the program. If I can get this to work.
Hello. I heard you say that you have a dormitory style section for millennials.
Yes.
I'm a boomer. I think that would work with me as well.
I'd love to have you.
Okay, I'm back. Jobco Realty and Construction has since 1950 been one of the leading developers and builders of residential housing within the tri-state area. It has created commercial, office, and building medical facilities, historic buildings, and retail stores. Our next speaker, Michael F. Puntillo, has development in his genes. He is, I think, the fourth generation in the business. So I imagine that on Thanksgiving and other holidays, real estate sometimes comes up in the conversations.
Once in a while.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Puntillo.
So, Warren gave a good background. I've been in the development business for 32 years and a couple of generations ahead of me. Tonight's topic, or this morning's topic regarding economic outlook for Main Street, I think it's important to focus, and I'm going to take maybe a different tack from some of my fellow speakers here, and talk about the national economy, because I think nationally what's going to go on, what has gone on, what is going on, and what will go on is going to affect what happens on Long Island. So I think there are 5 things that we need to be conscious of looking forward in terms of what's going to affect the Long Island economy. These are national issues. First off is federal fiscal policy. So the stimulus from the tax cut that was passed has certainly found its way in the economy. Right? If you look at the data right now, national GDP is certainly positive. However, it is starting to slow a bit, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in 2019 with the slowdown. Obviously, Federal Reserve interest rate policy is going to affect the economy. And if you're aware, the Federal Reserve currently is raising interest rates. The December raise has not been announced yet, but it's looking highly likely. Chairman Powell will do one more raise in December. However, they've shifted their language to being data dependent. What does that mean? It means they're going to be tracking the data in the formulas that they monitor to determine what's happening with the economy in general, to decide whether or not they're going to continue to see or continue to make further Federal Reserve interest rate increases going into 2019. My personal feeling is that they're going to have to slow. Why have they been raising rates? They've been raising rates because, quite frankly, unprecedented in American history, the Fed has lowered rates to practically 0 on the Fed rate. And it's one of their major policy tools. So what do they do when the economy slows? They lower rates. When the economy picks up steam, they have to raise rates because they have to have them at a point where they can adjust them downward to address the next recession. We have economic cycles. We had a recession in '98. We had a financial crisis in 2008. It's now 2018. These cycles run roughly 7, 10, 12 years. So it's important to keep an eye out that we're running toward the end. This is currently the second longest expansion in American economic history that we've been keeping the records. And so it is going to turn. Hopefully the Fed will be out in front of that, and they will stop the rate increases at a point before we end up creating a significant recession. Trade, that's number 2 out of the 5 things we need to monitor. If you weren't aware, very early this morning, President Trump, Trudeau, and the Mexican president signed an agreement This basically rewrote NAFTA. They threw it out, they rewrote it, and it's going to take some time to get through it, but preliminarily it looks like it's going to be a plus for the United States because the president has required that Canada and Mexico, that more parts, particularly for American cars, are made in the U.S. and not Mexico and Canada, so that's going to be a positive. Last thing, regulatory policy. So on the federal level, some of the regulatory policy has been rolled back a little bit. So far, so good. With respect to the banking industry, I can tell you from the conversations I've had with my lenders, the change in after 2008 and the Lehman crisis and the financial crisis, they really ramped up the regulatory requirements for your local and regional banks. Well, those are the primary source of loans in the Long Island community. They've rolled that back a little bit, but they're still faced with some heavy regulatory burdens. Hopefully, that'll come back a little bit. Fourth item, infrastructure. There's just no question that this country needs a comprehensive infrastructure policy. We don't have it. I think we can give great credit to the state of New York and its leadership and Governor Cuomo for getting projects done on a large scale. I mean, we are out ahead of the country as a whole in the fact that the new Tappan Zee Bridge, the work going on at the airports, I mean, these are absolutely necessary infrastructure improvements that are being made. And thankfully, with the leadership that's there, they have been making them. So, but that doesn't discount the fact that we still need a national policy so we can invest more because we need it, particularly as the land use policies, this is true around the country, not just here on Long Island, are pushing people into downtowns, and that's a good thing because demographically, all the studies show, the surveys show, that millennials want to be in an active downtown, and quite frankly, boomers want to be in an active downtown and not necessarily have to hop in their car every time they want to get a meal or go out and be entertained. Last item is interest rates. I touched on that. I will tell you my forecast is that the Fed is going to slow. I've been pretty good in my track record tracking interest rates. Obviously, I track interest rates because I'm a borrower, and I go to the banks and I borrow the money to go out and build developments, and so it's very sensitive. And I sell homes. I'm completing a 184-unit condominium development in Islip. I've got 2 units left to sell. It was an entry-level product, but my buyers are interest rate sensitive. Good news is, it looks like the 10-year Treasury is coming back down. It peaked at 3.25%. It's back down to 3%. I think we're going to see in 2019 it's going to hover between 2.75 and 3%, which is a good thing because it's going to keep mortgage interest rates down. And I'm getting the hook, so I could go on, but thank you very much for your time.
Do you have a sense, looking at the prospect of rising interest rates, maybe we'll go and tell them to shut up next time. When they cheer them, I like it.
Josh Feedstock has been a friend for over 30 years. I met him 30 years ago as a labor attorney.
Projects that are in development that have supplies on the supply.
As my labor attorney, I run a real estate property management company. And we needed the best, so we hired Josh to come in and he was able to help us through the process. So with that being said, I want to talk to you about what he's done at New York Tech and also the programs that are there.
Do you have a sense of that? Should I repeat?
Are you able to hear me? Speak up? Okay.
Yeah, well, the question was, how are interest rates going to affect development going forward? And there's a couple factors. Number one, higher interest rates drive up borrowing costs. That drives up the cost of the ultimate product that this gentleman and I build because we have to pass those costs on. Number two, the end buyer qualifying for home mortgages, I will tell you that at the entry level, I built a product in Islip that our starting price was $200 market rate, not subsidized at all. We started at $255,000 for a 1,200 square foot 2-bedroom. We got through our final phase. We're up to around $325,000 for that unit. But I have plenty of buyers walking in at that price point. And by the way, that's across demographic. I have some empty nesters. I have middle-aged singles, and I have millennial first-time, well, not millennial, but first-time home buyers who are just becoming millennials, or just becoming into that first-time home buyer, and they're interest rate sensitive, certainly. So a quarter point, a half a point, mortgage rates have ticked up a bit. It does some buyers walk out and they're on that bubble. So the answer is it has a big effect going forward. We've gotten used to a low rate environment. I'm not sure we can get to normalization. And just as my last comment with respect to the federal interest rate policy, you can't get away from the fact that this country has $21 trillion of national debt. And it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, but the fact is the Fed is not going to be able to raise rates or normalize rates in the near future simply because the cost of servicing the federal debt at $21 trillion is going to crowd out its ability to spend money on the military and domestic programs. So I don't see in the long term that the Fed can ever really totally normalize rates and get back to where they need to be. So, major impact going forward.
Maybe we can build a fence around the current rates.
So if you have any management-related issues, human resource, operational, marketing, please contact me
what
or
interest
Steve
rate do you think is going to affect you,
affect
the country,
and we would be glad to
change?
sit
At
down
what
and
point
talk to you about what
it's going to
your
start?
challenges are.
The
And
interest
the
rate
worst that will happen
is in the
you'll
7,
get some
8, 9%.
decent advice, and you won't have to
What do you
pay.
feel is going to be
The other thing that we do, which I may
the rest of the
offer
rest
as
of the
well,
country,
is we do a series of workshops on conflict management at work, communication skills at work, organizational
I
skills.
think historically, the average long-term rate averaged has been in the 5–6% area. I don't think we're going to get there. I think the new normal is going to be 3–3.5, let's say on the 10-year, possibly 4–4.5 on the 30-year. Again, because of the borrowing cost issue, I think the Fed's painted itself into a corner, particularly with the national debt, so I don't think they're going to get significantly higher. It would really have significant financial repercussions. Bear in mind that the Federal Reserve balance sheet in 2006 and 7 was $800 billion. At the height of the financial crisis, it rose to $4.4 trillion. The Fed is currently in a process of what they call quantitative tightening. They're bringing that balance sheet down, and they need to because in the history of our country, it's never been that high before. So they're trying to bring that down as part of this process, and I just don't see. You ask me what that crossover point is? Probably, I'd say 5% on the 30-year. I don't think it's going to get there. I think we'll be okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
No obligation.
5 Point Real Estate is a commercial real estate firm that's focused on the sale and management of commercial assets in Nassau and Suffolk counties. It's involved in all asset classes, including multifamily, retail strips, shopping centers, multi-tenant office buildings, and athletic complexes.
So we can have functions there.
Our next speaker is Guy Canzaneri, who is a managing partner at 5 Point Real Estate. He brings over 20 years' experience to this post. Little known fact about Guy is that he's a graduate of Colorado State. Ladies and gentlemen, Guy Canzaneri.
How you guys doing? Again, my name is Guy Canzaneri, co-founder and managing partner of 5 Point Real Estate. My partner Courtney is all sitting out there somewhere with you guys. You know, we strongly believe in the downtown revitalization, Main Street economic growth. We're constantly kicking the bricks, looking for new opportunities for gentlemen like these here who develop them. We're constantly meeting with municipalities, private developers, and really understand that it's a continuous effort by the supporting agencies and the municipalities and the private developers to enhance the social, the physical, and the economic experience in these main streets, on these downtowns. And I think you know, when you do that, you create a desirable downtown where people want to live, where they want to visit, and ultimately that creates employment opportunities. And you know, if we're talking about office in the downtown Main Street corridor and how can we create that that work component of the work, live, play, I think we need to create, you know, it's not just one aspect, it's creating that mixed-use building with high-end resi where the millennial wants to live. It's creating that social main street scattered with robust retail, right? A mixture of restaurants and bars and various entertainment services. And when you do all of that, employment opportunities happen. You have everything from your retail wage employer to your, skilled salary employer.
Small businesses are not aware of how they...
It's not just one thing, but it's the morphing of bringing the millennials, bringing the downtown living, bringing the social aspect, someplace where they can walk out of their apartments and not have to get in their cars to have a social environment. It has to do with creating cool public space for cultural events, Paramount space in Westbury, and really driving people to your downtown and making it a place where people want to live and people want to visit. Warren, you mentioned earlier when you first started introducing everybody, how in many of these downtowns, we're losing workplace, we're losing that workspace, and in many cases it's being converted into resi apartments. All that downtown mixed-use retail, now where you have retail on the first floor and offices on the second floor, most of that's being converted to apartments, and we're losing that workspace. I think it should be converted to apartments, don't get me wrong. I think you need to create you need to increase that downtown population, and you do that by building residential units that millennials want to live in. And I completely understand why the developers that I speak to all the time, the municipalities, when I go and speak with them in the plannings, the different agencies, and we talk about their development strategies for their downtown, we never talk about office. We talk about how many units can we fit, how much parking do we have to support those units. There's never a discussion about cool loft workspace for the downtown market. The developer cannot create office space in their new mixed-use project because it just does not make sense economically. They need those resi units. They bring in more rent. But what could maybe happen is municipalities can go back and maybe look at their current zoning, look at their current policies, and create a way to encourage the developer to add that cool loft space, that new workspace in the downtown and main streets without losing yield in their apartments. Because without the resi, the projects don't ever get off the ground. But I think if we can encourage the developers, maybe the municipality offers a quicker entitlement process for incorporating office. If we can get that cool loft space, get that cool workspace back in our main streets, then I think you'll see more businesses opening, more professional businesses opening. You come into Huntington Village and you got guys like R&M Engineering who bought a building in Huntington Village. They contribute to the daily economic growth of that Huntington Village every day when they go out and they have lunch. You've got wealth management companies down there. We happen to have, I live in Huntington, right near Huntington, so I frequent there all the time. And it's a robust community, morning, day, and night, not just on the weekends. Many of these downtowns that we walk into now, you go there on the weekend, and yeah, it's exciting, and there's people there, and there's traffic, but during the day, it's a ghost town. People get in their cars, and they drive away to go to work, and they don't come back until the evening, and you leave Main Street restaurants and shops empty during the day. So we need to figure out a way to bring that workspace back down to Main Street, and I think it needs to be incorporated into mixed-use developments without hurting the developer, without taking away the resi units. Because again, without that, the project's never get off the ground.
Under a 2-year time frame, get away from the feedback. But yes, that actually is.
One of the concepts that's involved a lot in the development of community space is a great good place. And that, I think, is what we're talking about when we're talking about where we're going, where people go after work. There's really very few places, I think, that are in between the place where we work,
you can hear from
the place where we shop after work,
someone
and then
that
home.
pointed.
I'm wondering if you're seeing in the pipeline projects, if you're seeing any great good places that are part of that communal space that may not pay back as much in terms of
I'm going to preface this by saying, when you watch this video,
but it is
yes,
invaluable
we're the
in terms
Nassau
of
Council
creating
Chambers of
value
Commerce.
for the
But
tenants and
we
for
say
business.
Nassau, but we mean Long Island, and Suffolk is right along with us.
So every time you hear Nassau, think Nassau and Suffolk.
Next time we'll have too much.
So we're building a very large clubhouse in that 180 unit development that I told you about. We're building a very large clubhouse. And we're going to have a coffee bar, we're going to have collaborative space, we're going to have an outdoor pool, we're going to have, Wi-Fi all over the place. We're not going to build like we would typically build a clubhouse where we would have a separate cinema and a separate room. It's very collaborative, very open, so that people can meet, greet, and get to know each other and spend time there, right? So every morning there'll be coffee served. Someone can come in and get a coffee, get and go. Unfortunately, 180 units is not really a sense of place if you're not downtown where you can build a huge, where you're going to attract retailers to that, right? So it's not a big enough of a development. If it was 1,800 units or 500 units or 700 units, it would be a little bit different. But that's what we have, and that's what we're going to be building so that the residents can use it. It's not for the outside residents, but it's for the residents who live in the community.
Oh, so shopping locally does make a difference. Yes, if we spend $100 locally, 48% of that money stays on Long Island, and every dollar we spend here brings almost
Sabre Real Estate is one of the leading retail real estate firms on Long Island. And Russell Helbling is a senior vice president at Sabre and is involved in management representation. Ladies and gentlemen, Russ Helbling.
And New York State. The message here is,
hey guys,
you got
nice
it.
to see you.
Local.
So I was asked to do this only a couple of days ago, so wasn't exactly sure about what I was going to talk about, but I think everything that I could kind of follow up what everybody else was saying.
New York Institute of
I'm here to tell you that retail is certainly not dead, it's just
so
evolving.
many
And I think
opportunities
retail
that
is
are
important in creating that sense of place that Warren was just talking about.
But
creating that
also,
third place. That's what Starbucks, one of my
offers,
clients likes to call it. They want to be the third place, the place you go between
educational
work and home.
programs.
That's where you're going to meet people, have loves and Steve, and
offers
have
a
a good
program
time.
to help you not become
the live,
but
work,
be registered
play
with the state
dynamic is
for
important
women,
to new
minority-owned
development, and
businesses.
obviously what the developers are,
And
that
of
I'm
course,
working with are trying
Farming
to
Up
accomplish in
and
their
I'm
new
sure
project.
there are a
And I
slew of
think that
others
it's
as well,
really
but
creating an
advantages of
artificial
those.
downtown. So downtown retail
And
real
shop
estate
local, especially this holiday
intrinsically
season.
is
You
just
don't have to
has
read
already
newspapers
become the
or,
that
any
live,
of the
work, play.
papers
People
to
are
know
living
that
around the
brick and
town. Maybe
mortars,
it's not in multifamily
need
homes, but it's
to
in
keep our money.
single
We
family
all need
homes.
to keep our
There's
money
going to be
here.
some level of
Thank you so very much, Mr.
work there,
So,
and
as you
that's
know,
where the big
it's been
play
reported
aspect
in a
will
number of
be with
trade magazines, shopping
the
centers,
restaurants, the boutiques,
magazines,
a lot of the
as
health and
well as,
wellness
at the ICSC
users that are there
convention.
or providers that are
Within 5
there.
years, about
We're working on a
800
number of large-scale
shopping
developments
centers
right now.
in the country.
I'm actually the one that said I was involved in the Nassau Coliseum project before, and when we worked on that project for 4 years, we helped Forest City win the RFP process. And then once we took it to market in 2015, we first went out to market with 188,000 square feet of entertainment and dining options. In the 2 years that we worked on it, we leased up about, we're at least with about 100,000 square feet of space. And then unfortunately the project hit a roadblock. But the goal of the project for us and for the developer was, yes, to provide an amazing venue for artists and maybe sports one day, who knows? And obviously there's Sloan Kettering coming in, and now I think Northville coming in, it's amazing, but that 188,000 feet was really to create a place to go. So it was where do Long Islanders go on a Saturday and say, hey, let's just go there and meet and figure out what we're going to do from there and have a number of different things to do while we're there. So that's what the goal of the developer was, and that's where we had a high-end movie theater, a number of great restaurants, a beer garden, comedy club. We talked about High Flyer for their indoor skydiving concept. So it was going to be that place you just go on the weekend and, hey, we'll meet there and then we'll figure out what we're going to do. Go to the food hall, etc., etc. We're now handling for Seritage Development, redevelopment of the Sears project in Hicksville. That's going to be a true transit-oriented development project. Goes 1.2 miles from the Hicksville train station, which is the number one train station on Long Island, seeing about 6 million riders per year. What we're building there is 250,000 feet of commercial space with about
No, but you get $2
550
if you
apartments
stop the
rentals,
balance.
and the goal there is to create a downtown Main Street walking village that's not only going to serve the residents that they're building, but also serve the surrounding communities and be that place, creating that sense of place, that third place, that live, work, play environment where it's, well, what do you want to do tonight? Well, let's go to Heritage Village, or you can go check out IPIC at the campus, the first theater on the island, the only one I can see happening for a long time. A number of great sit-down, large-scale sit-down restaurants, fast casual, and then we're going to focus heavily on
I have to say that's extremely impressive to be in a business for 40 years.
I think that
the
downtown retail environment is great where it already is, and it's growing, and I think what Huntington is doing is great, adding more markets, because that's what millennials want to be.
That is
as well, because it's cool, and it's fun, and it's a fun place to live. That's where I would want to live. But aside from that, new development is creating that artificially, and I think we're doing a great job of it. And it's the future of development on Long Island, it's the future of development retail, and just we're just slow to catch up.
And it's the municipalities active politically, so guess what, guys? When you leave
Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, DC, they're all doing it, but we haven't.
How do we make this work? So, you know,
we've done a great job in,
like I said, Josh has done.
Josh has done
over the years in terms of conflict resolution or call
the Farmingdale Station project. So we've done a lot of it. It just needs to be more.
Is that we collectively work together. I think that's important. So with that being said, I want to ask any questions. Yes.
And Russ is modest. He really stepped in when we had a seat available at the very last minute and really prepared very admirably for that. So thanks for pulling your thoughts together for us.
So the budget is $400,000. It's unfortunate that got reduced, but what's the typical grant size?
KOW Building Consultants have provided construction loan monitoring and property assessment since 1978. So we can wish them all a happy 40th birthday. Our next speaker is Nicholas Stokowski, who's an owner, representative, and development consultant, overseeing and consulting on construction projects for owners, developers, as well as large lending institutions. And he's a graduate of the New York Institute of Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Stokowski.
Hello, everybody. So as Warren mentioned, I'm with KOW Building Consultants and KOW Armored Development Consultants. We are partner companies, and we specialize in risk assessment and oversight of big projects for owners and developers and banks. We kind of represent the owners, banks, and development entities and make sure their interests are represented well and protected in the process with construction and architecture and everybody else. The interesting part about what we do is we heard some great projects, some great specific real estate here. We oversee a very large swath of different types of projects through a lot of different industries and different areas. On our bank side, we cover areas from Miami to Washington, D.C., to New York, and up into Boston. Our owner's rep side is a little more focused in New York and the boroughs and Long Island and up into Yonkers and New Jersey. So we get a really great idea of what others are doing, and we get to see what other entities have had success with. It's really great to see the things that have happened in Long Island. As of late, I'm a Long Island native. I grew up in Huntington. I used to take taxis down on the weekend and hang out at the restaurants. But what everyone's talking about with these walkable local communities is exactly what's needed for millennials to keep people here. And they're all right. It's not happening enough. Why is it happening? So we're starting to see the trends and changes in some of the townships. Three things that we always see, and one of the biggest things about development and construction is communication, coordination, and flexibility. So the actual building of it and the design of it are all parts of it, but it's all the people. It's the team you put together. The teams on Long Island are the towns, the developers, the people that are moving in, and everyone that wants to use those spaces. So we really need to see a better team effort to make these things work. When you see a great construction project happen, it's the architects that work well with the contractors, that work well with the development mission, that work well with the zoning boards and everybody else to make that happen. On a larger scale, if we can get some of that coordination and communication, we need private-public partnerships. You see areas like New York City, which is a very large example of it, but the Economic Development Corporation of New York City puts out projects that they want to see developed in certain areas. There's new opportunity zones that some people may or may not have heard of. The City of New York has gone out with state and federal government to help identify those locations where they want to develop infrastructure so that developers have an incentive to come and develop housing and commercial and retail in those areas and bring those areas up from where they were. And we need to see more of that here on Long Island. I'm very excited about the development that's happening, and I'd like to see more of it. I'm very pro Long Island development. I think there is a great opportunity to bring retail back to the forefront as long as people can go downstairs from their apartments and go shop and then go back home and live locally and not be getting in the car and sitting 3 hours worth of traffic.
That's how I look at it, right?
We had a snowstorm the other day that a couple weeks ago, 2.5 hours to drive from Huntington to Iceland. I mean, you know, our roads can't handle the amount of people that are here. We need more structure in how we develop going forward and how we make people's lives. We need communication and coordination with the residents. We need to talk to the young people that want to live here and stay here. You know, we're seeing strides in individual developers, but we need to see an overall movement from the group. We need everybody's participation to be able to really bring Long Island to the forefront, and part of that is that public-private partnership with infrastructure. And I'm sure there's other panels that are talking about it, but that infrastructure is key to this. All those pieces together are what's going to make these developments successful.
In terms of the internet,
some of the stuff that we get to oversee, we get to see when they do it really well. We get to see when they do it really poorly. And if everyone can start to follow a process, and there's a process that's outlined by government, and a process that people can come in, they know what's needed, they can talk to the residents, they can understand what's there. I'm sure a lot of the developers that we see now can adjust their approach to that flexibility and really help find what works financially for them and what works for the residents and make everything a little smoother and grow a little faster.
There's millions of dollars out there.
I wonder if we could come back to the idea of downtown and our initial plan to have downtown forecast, and could go around the table and briefly give me a sense of, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the market downtowns? And I know that we go from the city line out to Montrose.
That's a very good question. How can we help? Well, one of the things that also is
having said that, I'll put you on the spot, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about what 2019 and beyond will bring for Long Island's downtown.
To say I'm imposing on a tax on it.
So we're very bullish on downtown developments. We're actually looking for land in downtown developments, but as everybody knows in the audience here, it probably takes anywhere from 4 to 7 years to get a project approved, unless it can be fast tracked. All right, well, just give you an example. You know, we're building on in Huntington on Elwood Road right now. Right, the Seasons at Elwood. That project took 7 years to get approved. So it takes a long time to get approved. So if we even found a piece of dirt that we could, or an office building or something that we could renovate, we'd need to get a rezoning, because most of the towns don't have properties that are already rezoned. Although there are some downtown districts now that are rewriting their codes. The fact is, it takes a long time for these projects to get approved. But we're very bullish on downtown. We think it's great development. We think walkability is great, visitability is great. We think the sense of place is great, so we're very bullish on downtown.
Optimistic, cautiously optimistic about downtowns. There's no question that the trend is, and we should be focusing our development in our downtowns. Point of fact, though, in terms of the retail component, what that composition is still to be determined, in the sense that Black Friday and Cyber Monday set new records again. People are shopping online. That is certainly going to affect your local stores in your downtown. So what the final and ultimate composition of that downtown development is going to be, certainly a residential component is needed, and an office component and a retail component, but it is evolving, as my colleague from Sabre said. But overall, no question, downtown will be the focus of development on Long Island, and that's a good thing.
when you're pointing the finger.
You know, I'm optimistic on downtown and revitalization of main streets throughout the island. You know, I think it also starts with the infrastructure, and we got to get that sewer district running throughout the island. When you look now at all of the pipeline of mixed-use downtown projects, the majority of them are along that South Shore, the sewer system already is. The first opposition on any project where there's not a sewer, you're not in sewer, is that you're not in sewer. So it's really difficult to, you know, have Long Island, and all of the downtowns, and think that this is going to spread throughout the island, be optimistic about that until we get optimistic about fixing that infrastructure and sewer system.
I don't know, we had state-run programs for internships, state-run programs for green energy,
I still believe in retail, and I still believe in downtown retail, and I don't, listen, there's an Amazon effect. I make my living in retail, but I get 4 Amazon boxes a day that my wife's ordering. So, but that doesn't mean anything. She's still shopping in stores, and I think people still enjoy the experience of going to a store. It's about retailers getting smart and creating an experience where customers actually want to come in. They maybe get smaller, they get more specialized, and they create, again, everyone's talking about experiential retail, and I think that's just a dumb word. It's a matter of creating an experience, not just like something cool. It's like you want to get in, you want to touch, you want to have kind of like a treasure hunt feel. That's why I think smaller shops and having a number of smaller shops grouped together with specialty items in it is really the future of where retail's going. Because people want to see that, they want to touch it, they want to feel it. The other evidence that retail is not dead and it's not going to be completely overshadowed by the internet is the fact that all of these direct-to-consumer online retailers are starting to open up stores. So whether it's Bonobos, Indochino, Casper, the list goes on and on and on, they're all opening up showroom spaces and selling and doing extremely well. Warby Parker started only online. They're going to open 100 stores this year. So retail's not dead, it's just different. You gotta adapt.
And it's really something that, you know,
I agree. People still want to touch and feel and experience lying on bed before you buy it, or seeing a piece of furniture in the fabric before you take it out. But like somebody said earlier, when you leave the downtown to go to work, you can build the downtowns all you want, but you limit the amount of time that they're used. When you have the work near the downtown, people go into urban areas. And you go down from your office, you go out to lunch, you go shopping, and you go back up. When you come out here, you leave for the day, you come back at night, and that's when you do all your shopping. So if we could bring some of that work back, some of that work that played full cycle, and structure some of that, and that's where you're going to get more of the ability to be full-day use. Shop, eat. The office parks now, you get office parks, Melville Office Park. You don't go down to Huntington Village to go eat from Melville Office Park. You're up there, you have a couple little spaces that you eat, and then you go right back into your office, or they have some shops there. If that office area is closer to a retail area or downtown, you have a lot more use of retail, use of space, people live there, everything gets functions much better.
More cognizant of the fact of how it impacts us directly. It's just really try to be more aware of when you do have to purchase something. I know it's so convenient and it's a lot quicker and it's a lot easier, but just think about the...
I work for Nassau County, in the Office of Community Development, almost 9 years now. The reason I say that is what I hear in this room is great, it's awesome. And the whole TOD effect and what we're trying to get to is great, but until I started working in Nassau County, all that I hear here is like the best kept secret. And Nick, you were talking about what you do, and I know that with the developers, you do have a public process that you engage before you can get the development to where you want to be at, and the county also does that. But there seems to be a gap between what you are doing and what the community where you're going into, what they know. And so it would seem as though there is an education component that needs to be involved and be more robust. One thing that Nassau kind of realized is we do have our public hearings, and we do our public hearings during the daytime. That's when people are at work. And so one of the things we have to start to do is have an afternoon public hearing for some of our processes. And so maybe you can speak a little more about on that, about really how, and Nick, I think you're on to it when you started talking about communication piece, but I think it's the public and what they know. For instance, like most of you talk about TOD, the biggest thing is density. And Long Islanders are like, listen, the reason why we want Long Island is because we want a urban effect. And so when we talk density, they hear not what you're communicating in this room, so maybe you can address it a little bit.
We're going to be back at that again next year. The governor's included it twice in his executive budgets. It was moving along with the 25%.
So there's always going to be some fear of density, just because what we're used to and what Long Island's always been. But I think there's a good balance between an urban density and a suburban density, and a good area where those are around. There is fear of density, but there's still, if it's structured. I really think if the towns and governing bodies can help to take lead and to help their public understand, we will look to densify certain areas. There's going to be areas that it staggers out and the density comes out. There needs to be some master planning involved. And it's either going to be the developers that come in, that can find the land, that want to see if they can get developments in there, or it's going to be the municipalities that take lead and start to structure where they want and go look for the developers. The developers would, I'm sure, much prefer that. When you get into development, one of the reasons that urban areas are so big in development, people develop there consistently, is because there's a structure of, I follow the rules, I can build this. There's no questions asked. I'm allowed to do this if I abide by these rules. That doesn't happen anymore. You abide by these rules, and they have to go through reviews. If they don't like it, the rules change, and things get adjusted based on what the community is saying. So if there's a better structure for the developers to come in, and if you say, hey, I want assisted living in these areas, I am sure that Angle Berman would be happy to come in, look at those areas. The other thing that we can do here a lot more of is have some of the experienced developers
life centers.
Like I said, with the Economic Development Corporation of New York City is a good example, just because they do it actively all the time. Is they took somewhere, for instance, like the Navy Yard. The Navy Yard is now an opportunity zone based on this new federal opportunity zone. The Navy Yard, they want to develop infrastructure. It's not an area that's underdeveloped. They've been building housing there, they've been building industry there, but they want further development. They want infrastructure. They can bring more developers in, there's more of a pot to bring in and add to the infrastructure of the area. So if we can do that, we can master plan the townships and understand where we want to see density, where we don't want to see density, and bring the community on board ahead of time and bring it out to developers. Now the developers come in and have an understanding of, hey, if I go into these areas, I'm not going to get hit with everybody telling me they don't want what I have. This is the areas that want to see my product. This is the area that want to see what I do. Developers are working hard to get flexibility, but it's difficult. They come in and they have a model that works, that is profitable, and when you're dealing with so many outside factors, that's really important to have. And if they had that structure and understanding, if I don't have to sit here for 7 years and waste money on taxes and waiting for this to be approved, we can have much better developments, much faster developments, and better rates for everything.
Finance program, the community advantage program, and what sectors you're seeing the most traction.
I live in the town of Riverside. And I guess my question is just general. My community has 2 major human service agencies located right in the Main Street area. And I have no problem with that. But these people need to work. And they want to work, but there are no places within walking distance that persons that are challenged with physical or mental health disability, cognitive disability, can go to and add to the economy. Not only does Riverhead have those 2 facets, but we also have a huge Hispanic population that are generally laborers. And there are only so many landscapers on Long Island. So I'm wondering, you know, I know Riverhead would be a microcosm, but I'm sure situations like that are in other communities all across Long Island where the human service agencies are putting supported housing, or putting mixed use supported housing that would
that's really the sweet spot for it.
I guess,
And those loans go out
provide
10
the
years.
people that are living in those residences and in those communities opportunities to contribute to that. And that might not make the general public, the millennials, people that are making the $46,000 to $80,000, cautious about living in those communities.
Because of regulations and so forth that we have to follow. But yet, we do still need to have that relationship and so forth.
I think I have a good understanding. I think I understand what you're asking. You're asking kind of how do you mix that density in these downtown areas, so that there's opportunity for all different types, not just millennials, not just boomers, everybody. And you see a lot of it through how they diversify any kind of affordable housing, where when you go into housing projects, and you see it in bigger urban areas, is there's requirements or benefits for developers to have portions of their density be towards certain levels of the community. So you'll see some of that densification in areas that develop further, but you need more of it. When you have more development, right now they're just addressing the biggest need and the one that's always spoken about, which is millennials. And boomers are talking about the same kind of need for smaller, more affordable housing. But as we get further along in the process of municipalities opening up and being more open towards somewhat more density and just more development in general and a better structured plan of how to develop, you'll see, I'm sure, more thought process of everybody across the board. And you see that all around all the train stations for the most part. There's certain ones that are building up now and getting multifamily housing, but all the ones that haven't, even the town of Huntington, there hasn't been much development around the train station yet. So they've created their own density. You see a lot of housing there that have 2, 3, and 4 families, whether legal or not. You have it. So they're creating density anyway. So if we can structure that density safely and appropriately for the community, then you can start looking to make sure there's a spot in that density for every level of the community and every type of the community. And you need the jobs there too. The TODs are great, but the TODs take people away during the day and back at night. So you need walkable communities, you need the jobs, you need the retail, you need the housing, you need it all in the same place. Because it makes everybody stay and use everything to the biggest and best use that they can. Does that kind of answer what you're looking at?